Wait for it to come up. Yeah, we on tonight. We on tonight. Hey, everybody. Hello. How you doing? This is Dr. Fredenberg and the Bishop Frank Oliver here tonight. I always call you Bishop. How you doing tonight, Bishop? We on live. I believe.
Man, the Lord is kind. Let's make it happen, Captain. As I said, I tell them all the time, America got a leadership problem.
we here to talk about leadership tonight.
We can talk all of it. Anything we talk about is going to come back to America got a problem. It's a leadership problem.
All right, let's do a leadership. We can talk about let's put leadership. So let's talk about this leadership. What's the issue? What issues do you see, Bishop? What do you see going on right now? What's your leadership issues?
So let's talk about the leadership, man.
Yeah.
Trump said something. This is what happens in America. This is what happens in America.
Yeah.
We get upset about stuff, even if what somebody says is true.
Mm-hmm.
Take Trump and take Candace Owens.
Okay.
Candace Owens is at some type of black event on a black panel, and she says some problems in Black America is the lack of Black fatherhood.
Right.
The welfare system. She numbers these things. People were booing her. And even there, you know what I mean? Even her colleagues on the panel had to say, hold on. Farrakhan says these same things and we praise him.
Yeah.
But because we don't like her, we going to act like everything she says needs to be dismissed. Now, mind you, those things are symptoms because she does not want to acknowledge white supremacy, especially among the president.
Right.
The president said something over the weekend on Fox. I think it was today. And he says black people got to know their history. If they don't know their history, they will repeat what happens.
Wow.
Everybody's jumping on him, but that's true.
Right.
If we don't know, if we don't study our history and where we come from, we'll jump. And so I think that we gotta somewhat know that Trump can say some stuff that we agree with and still agree that he's a white supremacist. It's not no problem. I mean, it's not saying that truth is not truth. And right. So and I think that's it. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I agree with you. I think there's definitely I was thinking about that today about being a seeker of truth. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, a lot of times we'll go with the lie based on our beliefs. Well, sometimes based on our culture, based on our political beliefs. But at the end of the day, it's just about truth. If it's truth, it's truth. And I think that's what I want to be a seeker of, is finding the truth and to know what's really going on in order to seek out the right answer, the right solution. And I think right now, one of the things that we see within our culture is we're too committed to party. I'm gonna use that one tonight. We're too committed to party versus actual truth and solutions. And I think that's a problem. I'm gonna throw something out there for you, Oliver. That's good. I want to hear your thoughts. I'm gonna throw some out for you. That's gonna get your thoughts. This is gonna get your thoughts. I've been sitting on this. Do you think that as blacks we should have people on both aisles? Because see, my whole thing is, I'm not saying you're gonna change Republicans, but I am saying if blacks started being Republican, more blacks were Republicans, it would keep Democrats more honest, because I think sometimes that Democrats take us for granted. But I want to know what your thought is about that. If we play both sides,
I'm from Cali.
Okay.
I'm from LA. Cali. Yeah. I don't believe that nobody got to be on the Bloods or the Crips.
Okay.
And I believe that's what Democrats are now, and Republicans are Bloods and Crips. So right. I don't think that you have to be on any party. I think we're talking about conservative and liberal.
That's a good way. Okay.
What framework do you look at? Do you look from a conservative framework, or do you look from a liberal framework? And then are you a moderate? Do you know how to be able to hold in both things? So now I'm a conservative Democrat. I ain't never told nobody I'm a blue dog Democrat. I'm a moderate. Right. Yeah, period. Yeah. I'm in the center. Now, is that having a problem in my party? Definitely. Mm-hmm. They definitely, but guess what? They can't win anything without us.
Right. That's a good point.
My party can't win anything without us. So
Yeah.
I don't need to be a Republican because the Republican has adopted white supremacy, period, no buts. And I do not believe any black person has to subject themselves to a party who's adopted white supremacy. White supremacy is the evil and the demon of this time. It's demonic. It has destroyed more cultures. It's genocide more people. White supremacy. I'm not talking about white people. I'm not talking about white culture. I'm talking about white supremacy. Period. So therefore, what I think is that's what has to happen. Now, the problem we have is not a Democratic problem. It is not a Republican problem. It is a fraction problem. All voices are not being heard at the table, bro.
It's good. That's good. You know, it's funny you say that. There was a
I can say about the Republican Party, they accepted white supremacy because guess what? I hear no voices who are objecting to white supremacy. You get what I'm saying? So therefore, I concluded that party does not embrace others outside of white supremacists because I don't hear the other voices. I hear former Republicans. I don't hear active Republicans at this moment because somewhat we have muted certain voices out of the discussion, and that's an equality problem. That's an American leadership problem. Why in the world does the media why are we tone deaf to certain sounds we don't want to hear? Why don't we want discussion? Why don't we want people to hear both sides of a story? Why are we agenda based instead of really seeking truth? That's the problem.
That's great. I think one of the things is ratings. I think that's a big deal, you know, as far as ratings are concerned. But I want to ask you a question because there's people that are listening.
What do you mean by it's rating?
What I mean by that is people are going to put on television what's going to sell, right? So what sells? What is the base? Who's watching television? I mean, when you look at Fox News, they're going to go their way because they have that base, and that base is supporting them. I'm not going to. Well, yeah, I will go. CNN. CNN has their target market. It's obvious what CNN is going after. It's obvious what MSNBC is going after. That's just their target. That's what they're going after. I think
but they're not. But what I'm saying is, I think that's bullcrap that you can still target certain people, and so you've limited yourself to growth.
Right, you're right.
So Fox is how you don't know you might if you say you're conservative, conservative. Let's say Fox is a conservative media platform. That doesn't mean that you cannot have other voices that balance out that conservatism. Right? MSNBC is conservative, but I watch MSNBC. What keep me over there many times were the Chris Matthews, what's my boy in the morning. I don't get to watch him a lot. I gotta watch.
Chris Hayes. I like Chris Hayes. Chris Hayes is pretty good.
I'm not Chris Hayes. It's Morning Joe.
Okay.
Morning Joe. Morning Joe. Conservative dude.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then I go from watching a conservative Rachel Maddow, who's on the whole other side, but I think she's one of the best liberal. She's if she was a preacher, she would have she would have a mega church because how she begins to shape her ideas, right? So I like to have balance because at the end of the day, I do not believe I'm not going to go that American people are not civilized enough or educated enough to be able to give them an idea. I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
If it's good enough for God to set before us life and death and let us choose, then why aren't we setting before two things and letting people choose?
Now, this is what Kendall just said. And feel free, if you are watching this tonight, we want to hear your questions. We want to hear your thoughts. Please let us know. This is interaction. We ready to talk. This is what Kendall says. He said, talking about truth. Republicans as a whole have not adopted white supremacy, just like Democrats haven't adopted anarchists like Antifa. Ooh, there are plenty of voices like Trump who have denounced white supremacists publicly. Frank, what you got to say about that one?
I'm gonna say to Kendall again. There are not first of all, I have not seen any of Republicans who are in office denounce Trump and white supremacy. I have not seen them denounce. I mean, don't talk. I have not seen I've not seen that. I've not seen that. Period. No buts about it.
Right.
That's
Can
what I've
we
not
do this
seen.
real quick? Because I think this is a big thing, and I want to bring this up. Can we define what white supremacy is? Because I think sometimes people get that word mixed up. I want to get to racism in a minute too, but what is white supremacy for those that may be watching? Can we define that just so people understand exactly?
I wasn't prepared to give a textbook definition, but this is what we see as white supremacy. Mm-hmm. White supremacy is anything that holds that white people should are a hierarchy system where it puts white people, white culture, and white belief system at the top of a pyramid and believes that that is superiority to any other culture, and that every other culture must assimilate as much as possible and must hold that up as the idea. I don't agree with that. White supremacy says that white people are at the top and have this special treatment, and everyone else is at the bottom. That white people are supreme, and that's it. White supremacy also holds. White supremacy is, and then white supremacy says, therefore, if white is the top, then black is also anti. So white supremacy is always our thought pattern between black and white. Meaning when we operate in this world of black and white, we're operating within a white supremacist context, meaning black is the opposite or the fight against that which is white supremacy. So what people what people don't realize is when I say I'm a black person or black folks, I am talking in the place of being a soldier to fight against white oppression. Fight against white supremacy. Otherwise, my blackness, I'm an African American, but it's just like that. It's just like a cop who has to put on his uniform. It's just like a soldier who puts on their uniform. When they put on their uniform, they are U.S. soldiers. When they take that uniform off, they're citizens. When I take my uniform off, I'm an African American. When I put my uniform on, I'm black because I have to fight against anything that says white people are superior. There is no superiority. There is no superiority of any culture. And that's what we have to begin to understand. And those things, and so that white supremacy has been so long, they have codes. Make America Great Again was a white supremacy code. It's a code word. I have not seen anybody denounce what does that mean. They've never defined when America was great.
Right.
They have not defined that. Why do we have to make America great again? They have not defined that. And so there are these codes in which they talk in. That's where I'm at. And I think and that's all I want to say. And I don't want Kendall to think what I'm saying is I think there's a problem that I think Kendall has to. I would hope that she would agree. I said there's a silence of voices. There might be Republicans out there who denounce white supremacy. One is what I'm saying is they not getting traction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now Antifa, I'm a Democrat. I'm black. Mm-hmm. I don't even know who those people are. We don't even the only person who brought light to this little minority fraction group is Trump. There is nobody on the Democratic Party who understands or they have any type of traction. They don't. The Bernie Knights have more traction and is a problem than whoever y'all talking to Antifa, whoever them people are. We please believe they little bitty. We're not paying attention to them whatsoever. They're not at the Democratic Party. They don't sit at the table. That's like me almost saying I said white supremacy. I didn't say KKK. I didn't say the KKK were Republicans. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Even though white supremacy and white nationalism, and the KKK may ascribe to white supremacy, I didn't say KKK were Republicans, and that's what I'm saying. So that's good. The KKK and whatever this group they talk about are the same. I don't attribute them to a party. I would never do that. What I do attribute to the party is an ideology.
And I think it was Malcolm X who said that white liberals are the most dangerous. And I think that's always something to think about is people who say we believe in equality. And I don't even like use equality no more. I like use the word equity. And I think there's a big difference between equality and equity. And I'm really for the fight for equity. That's a whole nother conversation. But I love what one guy said where Malcolm X talked about, one of the most cold or the evil person is the white liberal, the person that says I'm for you, but actually is not for you. And I think that's an important conversation. So I love how you emphasize KKK is not just Republican, but they can be on both sides, but one can be undercover and one can be more so out of the open.
I want to take KKK and those groups out of the equation. When we want to talk about liberals, and I'm not just talking about white liberals, I'm talking about all liberals, because some of them liberalism, being liberal, I think also can be anybody know me. I think liberals are totally against. Thank you. That's Raquel Waysmith. That's my girl.
Right. Yeah, you know yeah. So she says, I'll define it real quick.
Dr. Waysmith, thank you.
Dr. Waysmith says white supremacy, the system that say whites are the superior, any other, and especially blacks, is the cardinal opposite. This is good. And are below the white man and woman. All systems that are built from the foundation of white supremacy, including Walmart, Sam's Club, any system that was originally funded by the blood money of white supremacists to this day, we continue to contribute to these foundational cornerstones that are based in a history of blood money from the backs of minority groups as well.
Well, that's what we got.
I'm gonna put that up again just so people can see, because I think she pretty much made it very clear.
So let me say this about liberals. I'm sorry, I'm drinking.
Yeah,
I'm eating ice. So let me say this about liberalism. Liberalism has a problem. I have a problem too, because liberalism teaches they believe in giving money and resources, and if you throw money at the problem, that's going to fix the problem. And so the reason why the majority of black communities have not grown in the last 50 years and are dealing with the same problems is because liberals way of thinking is giving more resources and throwing resources at the problem. So instead of measuring and holding accountable how that problem should grow. Is that making sense?
I love Frank. I love how you talk about measuring. I'll come back to that.
Right. Okay, so we have no measurement. So as long as people stay poor, then we're gonna fund that district to the point where we throw money at the district. So why do you want to get the district better? That's the only way you get funding. That's the only way you get resources. We do this in education. We do this in politics. We do this everywhere. We think of throwing money is going to fix a problem, instead of measuring and saying what is going to work. That if we have in 10 years, what is going to turn Watts just like Beverly Hills is? That way, that once that Watts becomes a Beverly Hills, they don't need the money from the federal government. They don't need the money from the state, because now they have become self-sufficient. And liberals are scared of allowing black people, to be self-sufficient. Because at the end of the day, what white supremacy says is because white people know better, they must be at the table and be in charge, no matter if they're on the conservative side or no matter if they're on the liberal side. White people always want to stay in charge, and that's the problem with white supremacy, is that it tells them that you don't have to be in charge.
That's
and
good.
If you can do, if you are white and say I don't have to be in charge, that I'm okay with a black man being my preacher. I'm okay with a black man being my boss. I'm okay with a black woman being my preacher. I'm okay with a black person being my boss, and I wouldn't feel any type of way indifferent from them. Then guess what? You've overcome white supremacy, and I thank God for you, and you've destroyed the demon, and we need to replicate that in the world system.
Hey, Frank, that's so good. And I want this. This is good. I want to go back to the measurement. I want to go back to metrics, because I think this is so critical. And the only reason, and I'll be very perfectly honest, my entire life I've been doing events, but it wasn't until I got into my doctoral program that I realized the power of assessments, of samplings, and of measurements. So anytime I was watching this Candace Owens and Lamar Monthill, they had this discussion. They had a lot of views. People saw the discussion, and Candace Owens was throwing out these facts, and I was like, we got to hold on for a second, because I want to know what the sampling looked like, and I want to know the sampling, and I want to know the measurement. Because a lot of times we're throwing money at certain organizations, right, Oliver? We're throwing money there, but we're not measuring the impact. I'm seeing companies that are throwing money at black organizations right now, and I'm all for it. I'm happy for it. Trust me, I'm with it. But I'm not about handouts. I'm not about publicity looking good. What I want to know is how is the money being used to create the systematic change? And that's one of the questions I want to know is what programs are we putting money to that actually has systematic data to show the impact that was going on. And I thought that's critical.
So let me say this. First of all, there's not enough blacks nor enough black organizations that can be that sophisticated. I'm going to say that number one now.
Okay.
We don't have enough black people in doctoral programs, in PhD programs who are went to school for research to do that. Black people are doing great things. So it's not that. And the money that organizations are throwing to black organizations is not the problem. The fundamental problem is what we pay into. Our taxes pay into a federal system that is supposed to help citizens. And so the money that's coming down from federal governments and from state governments, I'm not talking about individual, because every time we get in this argument, we talk about individual organizations. There's no one individual organization. Right. Let's talk about the major organization, the Black church. The Black church has to take care of a community with people who pay 10% of what they get. And then only 10% of the people who are in the church pay that 10%. So therefore, there's not enough money to make systemic change in all of black ghettos, in all of black places. But let's talk about our state government. Let me use this. Let's go here. LAUSD, what the second biggest school district in our nation. And let's talk about the money and how the money is spent within our communities.
Right. Yep.
And how I can tell you that even their measure, first of all, they have this universal measurement that doesn't work.
Right.
It does not work. Testing and those measurements does not work to measure our children. That's number one. Number two. Now, what needs to happen is, and this is the problem I have with assessments. I have a problem with all assessments is this. When you give a blank assessment that you think is going to work, it does not deal with the variation of culture, of context, of the historical aspect. There's a difference of what goes on in LA and its ghetto than what goes on in Chicago and its ghetto. So when we talk about assessments, you cannot have something that is totally blank, and you cannot just be so research based that you don't understand how to begin to bring in some of our social sciences and connect it. And so the problem I think that's happening in all of this assessments talk is that we don't know how to combine the social sciences together to come up. The sociologist has to come in and look at it psychologically, sociologically. We got to look at it scientifically and come up with something sophisticated as an instrument and tool to tell the history, to tell where we are, where we're going, and what's going to happen. Science doesn't want to do that. They just want to act like I came up with a tool and let's just deal with data. Data does not tell the story.
Well, this is the, and I think there's two things. I think number one, in research, they talk about qualitative and quantitative data. And one thing I actually talk about in my book in Red Leadership, when you're measuring, one thing I talk about is creating what I call an inclusive winning culture. And I say, if you're going to measure the impact of the inclusive winning culture, not only do you look at the quantitative data, which is numbers, but you look at the qualitative data, because this is the deal.
You better use that doctorate, boy.
Yeah, because what I was gonna say is there's certain things you can't even understand unless you have a conversation with people. Like, you know what I'm saying? You can't measure you can't measure certain things. There's certain things you only uncover through conversation. And it's another reason why I wrote my book, Red Leadership. Because when you deal with the millennial generation, this is one of the major problems with this whole research. And we have these experts that talk about millennials, but the problem is, Frank, they come into these corporations and they're using a blanket statement. And what I mean by that is the original research I talked about for millennials took place in Fairfax, Virginia. Now, in Fairfax, Virginia, the dominant sampling was white and Asians. Only 18% were Hispanic and blacks. Now watch this. When you look at the Labor Bureau of Studies, they say that 42% of millennials, or about 40%, are either blacks or Hispanics, but you only sample 18%. And we're using that research to determine the money we allocate, the decisions we make with as it relates to millennials and culturally diverse millennials. And now universities and companies are scratching their heads and saying, why can't we retain and why can't we understand this generation? And it all goes back to the data. Your data was flawed. Therefore, everything built off the data is flawed until someone comes in, again, like you said, and can target it toward their specific group. What we really need to teach our community is we got to teach people how to do accurate research, accurate data and assessment.
Or not only that, also too, bro, like even if you're not that sophisticated in doing data, many people who are working, first of all, number one, you got to bring a collective people to the table. This is I have a problem with this. A collective people need to be from the table because no one is monolithic. And so we have to get a voice of all the people at the table. This is your sample, a sample of all leadership and all of those who I would consider stakeholders, pillars. If you want to come and talk to me about leadership in the Black community of millennials, you got to have a table full of those because millennials are very value-based and influenced by certain people who have commonality to them. Right. And so the millennial who is common with is following and connected to hip hop may be a different millennial than is connected to somewhere else. And so how do we begin to look at those values and shape and have people at the table? Because we got to move to team leadership and stop trying to have a one person show or somebody's one. You're taking your data, taking somebody else's data and putting it all there and doing the heavy lifting of saying this is a sample of all of what's coming on. So, so we got to move to having conversations, meaning that there are conversations that are being dialogue, that we have dialogue among different aspects of millennials that give us a full picture. You can't do it overnight. You cannot do that in one speech. You cannot do that in one little 6 weeks. Any company has to have an ongoing relationship with you as a millennial expert. They have to want to know that they're going to have to listen at you over time because millennials' thought patterns change like that because they change with trends. Because this is the first group of social media and they are unraveling, uncovering, and learning as they go. So I think their process, I think that's the best word. And they are a process generation. They process it as they are going. They begin to go. That's why it was easy for this all Black Lives Matter work for them because they're not being so principle based. They are fluid and process based. As they learn and understand, so also goes how they have ethics and morals. We so busy on this is my principle, this is my stance. There's no growth in previous generations. But this generation grows as they learn the information.
Right. And they have a desire to grow. And again, this is research across the table. They have a desire to grow. But I think, again, that's why I always go back to equity. And I think it's about giving multiple people the seat at the table. And I just think that is so vitally important as far as moving forward. And that's really what my whole thing is when it comes to leadership. Because this is another thing that I see, Frank.
Can I ask you this? And this is the problem I have. When we say have a seat at the table, what do we mean by that? Because I think they believe it goes back to this. It's racist. We're in a racist dialogue, right? I want to talk about the problem we have is we have not developed enough of terminology and enough language to not talk in white supremacist racist terms. So when I say race, when I talk about race, it's always connected to white supremacy because before white supremacy, we didn't talk in terms of racism. Everybody talked in terms of ethnicity, right? So this race term is a socially construct, right? That happens that really has no basis in anything.
Should we get okay? Go.
So what I'm saying is when we say come to the table, that doesn't mean have a black face. Because Fred Fanon told us that people can have black faces and white bodies, white heads,
wow,
white bones.
good.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
that's good.
Don't just
that's
put
good,
a black
Oliver.
face
That's
there.
good.
That's why I have trouble with affirmative action. Just having a black face doesn't mean you have someone who understands the agenda. Having a black face doesn't mean that's a black millennial nor the black agenda. Black Lives Matter is one thing where we can tell. If anybody wants to know, in our context, the Black Lives Matter as a slogan and as a declaration is totally different to us as black people than those who run the Black Lives Matter movement. Matter of fact, I denounce those who run the Black Lives Matter movement, because that movement is really based in more of LGBTQ. I know they have another one. It's based more in that than it is in my blackness. And those two things, sometimes to a lot of black moderates, those things are not always we're not tied. There is a uniqueness to our movement. There's a uniqueness to their movement. And there are some things in which some of us may make a stance and say, okay, right, y'all can have same-sex marriage, but some of us don't agree with black trans or black queer or everything else. We don't always go down the same roads. Is that understandable? And you cannot merge the two. So I think that what people have to realize is we got to develop a certain language and a certain type of talk and a construct that is not always based in racism.
Brother, more so based on, I like that how you said more so based on the culture. And I think that's so, and I want to ask this question, because I've been thinking about this, and I got this from Bishop McClendon, where he talked about, it was real proud. He talked about how he said he wouldn't even have a discussion about race, because he said race was a fault. He said race was a fallen concept from the jump. And he said if it was a fallen concept from the jump, I don't even get in a discussion about it. What he said I talk about is cultural or ethnic diversity. And I think that's so powerful. But I want to ask Frank, because there's a lot of people that talk about anti-racism. Can we get to the solution without talking about race? Like, can we get to the solution?
No, I didn't say not talk about it. Bishop McClendon is different than I am. I'm gonna talk about it because it's race is in existence. Even if it's not a unicorn, race is in existence. I just don't agree, nor I don't want you to confine me into these notions of race. Race is there, but what we got to do is learn to
go deeper into it. I see what you're saying.
What we have to learn how to say is, I'm not going to allow race to determine my narrative and my talk. If that's right, it's just like and that's hard for. Now, watch this. That's going to be hard for white people. It's going to be hard for white people now, and the reason why is I'm rewinding them to say, now you got to find yourself. Who are you? Are you Irish American?
Italian?
Are you Anglo-Saxon? And what does that matter? Because you only jumbled up. Why did you lose stuff that tells you of your DNA? Why did you lose? Like, your DNA cannot say race, does not say white. Your DNA is just not going to say, like, you come from a place and you come from an origin that has rich cultural value, and you've lost that cultural value. That's why taking down these statues is hurting a lot of them, because they don't know any other cultural value other than what they've been taught in school, which is American. And that's why it's so hard for them to learn more of American, because then it almost looks like you're saying, we don't exist. No, you do exist, but the same system that is corrupting black people is the same system corrupting white people. It's not a people, it's a spirit. It's a dynamic spirit that is destroying. Look at this, and I want people to understand this. Judas was destroyed by the same spirit that set him up to destroy Jesus. When that spirit left off of Judas, Judas killed himself. Jesus was killed. Jesus was killed. And after that spirit got done using Judas to kill Jesus the Christ, that spirit left him and turned on Judas, and Judas killed himself. He died from the same demonic spirit. And this is what I'm saying to my white counterparts, my white brothers and sisters. If you're not careful, white supremacy is not only going to kill you, not only is white supremacy used to kill others, it's killing you.
That's so good. Now, I mean, there's so many things to talk about as it relates to that. There's so many things. Number
we
one,
tonight, baby. We winging it.
Yeah. Number one, I would talk about my wife. My wife's Colombian, right? She have Colombians. So we have Colombians, we have Puerto Ricans, we have Dominicanos. I call them Dominicanos. We have we have a variety of different Latin cultures, right? And one of the things I've learned is Latin cultures are very what's the word? Are very prideful, and not in a negative way. Are very proud of their heritage. Like it would be the worst thing to tell one culture that you're lumped up like the other culture, and that's a whole nother discussion for another day. They feel great about their heritage, and I just learned that from my wife. She's Colombiano, I call her. She loves her culture, and if you were to call her another Latin culture, like, no, that's not me. This is who I am. And because they understand that it's not just the and again, you got so many Latinx, Hispanic, Latino. It's not just the umbrella. There's different dynamics into that entire culture that make a difference when that seat is at the table. You know what I'm saying? If you understand what I'm saying
is that's what Africans.
Yep.
That's what Africans. That's with indigenous or Native Americans. All of them had. See, white people call it tribalism. But I would tell white people, when you call it tribalism, like Latinos and Africans and Native Americans, that's tribalism. That's beneath us. But then y'all, what is Republican and Democrats? Those are tribes too, right? That's tribalism. We all operate in small tribalism. But what has happened is we have this way of trying to put people in categories.
Right. Yep.
We put people in categories. This white supremacist kind of construct, this European construct, want to put people in categories instead of allowing people to define themselves in their own tribes. Right. And so that's the problem. So now you're trying to call them Latinos. What does that mean? The right. Latinos are different. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Let's give it split. This is what's called. You have Latinos who believe at that border, mm-hmm. there's a problem. There's too many people coming in.
Right.
Now, this is the challenge I have with Latinos. I want to know what Latinos are having a problem there. Mm-hmm. So let me give you a couple. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get in trouble for this one, but I'm ready to roll with it.
Okay.
In the 80s and 90s, my Mexican Americans had nothing to say about them people crossing that border as loud as they are now. Mm-hmm. The ones who are crossing the border right now are from South America. Now everybody's screaming, it's too many in here.
Yeah.
But when it was their people coming in,
right.
When we had Mexicans coming in, mm-hmm. nobody had I wasn't hearing them saying nothing. When they did in California 187, I think it was Prop 187, they said we shut all.
I
mean, they was in a no, but now I got Mexican friends who telling me we need to shut down the border. You know why? Because Mexicans are very different than Hondurans and Guatemalans. And so what you're really saying is we don't want them Guatemalans here. It's too many of them. We don't want the Honduras here. You understand what I'm saying? It's the same thing I would say with those from Cuba who are down there in Florida who be like, oh, wow. But y'all didn't have y'all don't have no problem when the Cubans need to come over here for refugees, but you got a problem when the Haitians have to come over here. See, that right there to me shows that there is a dynamic of somewhat prejudice.
Which I want to go back to.
I mean, I said racial prejudice, but ethnic prejudice that we have to deal with and say that's not right.
And I want to say something else that you said that's so powerful. Again, remember before we got into this, we said it began, it's a spirit. Ooh, I feel the Holy Ghost. It's a spirit. And this spirit is manifesting in different ways in different cultures. And I think people do it to Africa. Hey, Frank,
do it to Africa. I hear African Americans talk about Africans all the time, Josh. Oh my God, they're Africans do it to African Americans, and we the same descendants. What I'm saying is there's a spirit that puts us against each other, and we have to destroy that spirit that says it's not. If it's not against each other, then it's against male and female. So then the spirit moves from racism to sexism. If it's not in sexism, then it removes from the have to the have-nots, and it moves into classism. It's the same spirit. It just uses a different. reform. Yes, sir.
And Frank, this is what's so deep about this whole important concept. Judas coming on here. Yeah, you say you want to say hi to people? Just say hi to people. Say, they said hi, Judas said hi.
Judas breaking that spirit. He black, Jewish, and Colombian. He got it all.
He got it all. He got it all. But what I want to say, I think is so powerful is I want to go back to this point, Frank. It's spiritual. It's spiritual. And I think, this is so, it goes back to this spirit of division. And this is the challenge. This is the challenge. And this is the role of the church, Frank, when we come to this racism. But I don't even know. I know there's men and women of God that have been I haven't heard many talk about this. We're having the argument about the race, but we're not dealing with the spirit. And until we address this spirit, that is where it's at. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Well, we only have one race.
Yeah, the human race. Right.
So now we have a race of people called the human race. It shouldn't be an argument if they believe in the Holy Bible, the Holy Writ. It says that men, male and female, were created in the image and the likeness of God.
Right.
If we deal with the divinity of human beings, that all men and women are created in the image and likeness of God, that's already, there's no question of equality. All people are created in the image and likeness of God. So when people ask me the immigration problem, so immigration reform, anybody knows me, I'm pretty big on us understanding somewhat. I'm a moderate. So immigration reform has nothing to do with kids being or people locked up in cages. Matter of fact, I'm totally against people locked up at cages. I don't care. I'm totally against, they broke the law. Because you break the law and because you're a criminal does not mean that I can treat you like you are savage. I believe you still have divinity in God. Period. No buts about it. God treats me like that. So I'm even against how we operate with people in prison. I think that change all of that because we should hold some type of respect for humanity and dignity of the human being.
Right. And I want to say this, and I want to say, and even for some of those that are coming over, you don't know what they're coming from. And I think that's another important thing. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what challenges they're going through. Even if you don't, I just respect you as a human being. When I look at you, Josh, when I look at men, there's a lot of men I don't agree with what they do, but I look at them and say, you know what? I may use the word young king. I may use the word young lion. I may use the word king or lion. I may use those words to talk to them. All of those words always remind me and inform me that irregardless of what my judgment is or my view of somebody is, it does not stop that God made them in his image and his likeness. And I may not agree with what they do, but I have to always agree with they are a creation and they are God's children. Right. And I can't get away from it because I got to keep coming back to you, Frank, because I think something was hit. You said it's a spirit. I think that is so powerful. The Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but but against spirit. It's spirit and powers, spiritual wickedness in high places. What are principalities? What are powers? These are the things that I'm talking about. Break this down for us. Break this down. You're a theologian. Break down principalities, power. Break this down because I want people to really understand what this looks like. I'm sorry, but
So we got principalities that are over certain different jurisdictions. They have rulership over certain jurisdictions. So racism in America, a principality, is very different than racism in South America, right? Or racism in Brazil, which holds one of the highest outside of Africa. Brazil got like 75 million black people in Brazil.
Wow.
South America and many times, like a lot of people don't know. African people outside of the continent of Africa, the highest other population is in Brazil, and when you deal with South America, I want people to understand that. So all above all the Latin people, right now out down there, racism is still racism, but it's a different principality. So they don't deal with it looking at it in this black and white picture as we do here. Now, is it racism? Yes, but it's a different principality. Are you getting what I'm saying? And so what I'm saying to you is that those principalities, depending on where it is, Poverty is the poverty is a principality. It's different in LA. LA ghettos look a lot better than Chicago ghettos, right? There's a different principality, but it's still there. That's principality. There are powers, there are forces that are working. Racism is systematic. It's a force working in the judicial system. It's working in the Congress. It's working in our laws. It's working. There's a power of racism working. It's not that all police officers are bad. They're just a power in racism that is working in the police system. And we have to know how to break the power structure. Come on, the power structure to break that. That don't mean defunding the police is not the answer. That's not the answer. The answer is getting to the power source that deals with the mind and shaping young minds and shaping people to operate in that. Black people fundamentally are scary, fundamentally are evil, fundamentally are violent. And you got it to the point where you even got black people believing, who are police officers believing that their own people are violently prone, and the only way we can deal with them is not rational but by force. You got to break that power. And so that's all I'm saying is there these power, principality power is spiritual wickedness in high places. That's what I believe Trump is. He is the epitome of the spiritual wickedness. It lives in him. Spiritual wickedness. There's no good thing that's come up out of him. I have not seen no good thing yet come out of him. I have not seen no good thing come out of him. I believe he is showing he is. I believe the spiritual wickedness has possessed his body, and I believe that he is shown that way. Spiritual wickedness in high places. And I know I'm gonna lose a lot of people from that, but if people can show me something, like you can show me what he's done that is out of a good place, rooted out of a good place, then I will understand it. I think that whatever you would call good things is only done because he sees it to push his agenda. And I would tell people this like this. I say this: nobody wants to date somebody that the only reason why they're dating you is because they're going to get something out of it.
Right.
Nobody wants to date somebody. You really want people to believe that a person genuinely loves you and care for you. You do not want. And so if that's good for you personally, that should be good for you as a culture. It should be good for us as citizens. So spiritual wickedness in high places. Paul breaks all of these things down, and he breaks them down almost like they're an army, almost like they're in a hierarchical way to show us that our fight is not against people. Our fight is against the spiritual realm. But guess what? If the church is not there, if the church is still dealing with flesh and people, how do we expect spiritual blind people? How do we expect people who don't even understand spiritual things to deal with it? And that's the problem. The church does not know how to introduce, how to operate in the spirit realm.
And Frank, in my question, I want to even go a little deeper on that. And again, I'm not, you know what I'm saying, you know how I feel about men of God. I don't like, but I'm saying, and I just put myself in as well. Have we done a good enough job at preparing people to use their spiritual weaponry? You know what I'm saying? I mean, are we doing a good job and at preparing our people to activate our spiritual weaponry? Because in order to deal with this battle, if the church is going to be relevant, we're going to need our spiritual weaponry in order to deal with this in the spiritual. Preparing people to use it.
Last 20 years, I'm sorry, Josh. The last 20 years, we have for the last 20, maybe 30, let's say about last 30 years, from the 80s up until now, the church has spent more time in personality-led spirituality. It's been about personality, celebrityism. It's been about cultism. And we have not prepared people to understand spiritual things or built them up to understand spiritual things outside of their preacher, outside of their denomination, outside of the church stronghold. Honestly, I think the church is at reform, just like the Protestants had to protest the Catholic Church because of its control and its and because of its unethical standards. I think also there needs to be now a reform and protest of the Protestant church, because I believe that for the last 30 years, our unethic ways of moving and our stronghold on people has suffocated their spirituality. Now I bring that goes on. We have not prepared for this moment. So now you have a generation where in the last days I will pour out my spirit among all flesh.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you have a generation that does not learn spirituality from church. God's spirit has just been poured out.
Wow, that's good.
They
that's
are
good.
sensitive. They are spirit. Their ethics. Matter of fact, they're not even looking at the church to be a moral compass. They have a moral. Matter of fact, many of them, if you talk to millennials, many of them have never stepped in the church and they have more moral.
Mm-hmm.
They have a better moral compass than those who are in church, who've been there for years.
I want to bring this up, Frank. We have this conversation.
I mean, I think we have not prepared, and I think what God did through COVID, shut the church doors down. Let's clean this thing up so that I can call my real prophets. And I tell people now, this is the call for prophets. Every preacher's not a prophet, but every prophet ought to be a preacher. And at this moment now, if you are an authentic prophetic voice of God, this is your moment to proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ in a way that helps people to get to see spiritually, not just I love my neighbor, but to understand and define who is my neighbor. You need spirit for that.
That's good. I want to say this, Frank, because this is so powerful. We're having a conversation with my. Okay, Jude, I'm talking. Okay, your dry pad. Thank you. I was having a conversation today with my brethren, and he talked about the bride, and the Bible says that Christ is coming for a bride without spot nor blemish, and he was talking about that when you get married, right? When you get married, you're not marrying a baby, you're marrying a mature woman, and he was talking about when Christ comes. Yeah, he's talking about when Christ comes back. He's coming back for a mature bride. And this is so powerful to me because, a lot of people say it's the end of the world and, there's the last days and you hear a lot of that. And again, that's up for debate. But I think what one thing is clear for the church is that there's a level of maturity that is coming to those that are locked in where I think God's going to do some incredible things through them. I think what we've seen in the church up to this point has been great, but I think what's coming in the future is going to be amazing. But again, I think it's going to be for those who are serious and those who are locked in seeking Christ and just seeking what I call the mysteries of Christ. I think the power is going to be a whole nother level going forward. I really believe that.
Well, I think number one, when we say the last days, doesn't mean doomsday. And I think the problem is the church has been teaching like the last days of the doomsday, which is kind of a little antithetical because when we use the last days, we're only using in days. We're only talking about in times as we get closer to Christ is approaching, right? Because we who are believers don't believe we have last days because we have eternal life.
Right. That's good.
We preach eternal life. So what we understand is if you are a believer, you have eternal life. So there's no such thing as the last days for you because you forever live.
Right.
But the last days in the sense means that God is doing something different in those moments, in those days. Right. When I mean about the last days, I pour out my spirit among all flesh, there is also a restoration, as there's a restoration of his people, as there's a restoration of his thing, as we come into the days or what they would call the end of the world moments or end of the world as we know it moments, right? In those days, there can be two. God knows how to do two things at the same time. He knows how to elevate and prosper his people, and he knows how to begin to condemn the world at the same time. Those two things can work simultaneously.
Exodus shows us that.
Yeah. Come on. Number two, number two, what we have to understand is our job as the church. Now, you said, listen, the emphasis is that Christ is coming back for a church, a bride without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. The problem is that we've always been taught that means that you need to live holy, you need to get right, you need to do that. But really, the spot, the wrinkles, and the blemishes only happen because who was supposed to get the bride prepared didn't do the job. If the dress is wrinkled, it's not because of the bride, it's because whoever was who was preparing the dress did not iron out the wrinkle. Let me talk to you in here.
Wow,
and so what is happening is that we have too many preachers who want to mix spot and tamper with No, Jesus ain't coming back for a whole bride. He wants a pure bride, and you got to stop. We got to stop hoeing the bride. We got to stop messing up Jesus's bride. We the problem. The delay is happening. The problem is that Jesus looks at his church. He see another man has entered into her, and the preacher is screwing her instead of preparing her for who her ultimate bride, who her ultimate groom is Jesus Christ. And that's the problem. Is nobody is checking leadership. We don't want to check Trump. We don't want to check the preacher. And anytime you say something about Trump, they want to get mad. Anytime you say something about Obama, they want to be mad. Anytime you say something about their preacher, they want to get mad. But the Bible calls us to hold our leader, pray for them, but hold them accountable.
Right. And I think
we want to do all the praying, but we don't want to do the accountability.
And Frank, and this thing, and the notion that we're going to have a perfect leader is fallacy. Like every leader,
Jesus.
Every leader is going to make a mistake. Like this whole notion that we're going to put this person in the office and they're going to solve all our problems. It's a fallacy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it does make a difference. But it makes a difference. Obviously, it makes a difference on policies and it makes a difference on decisions. And I do understand leadership matters. But what I'm saying is that
I want to say this, Josh. Before you go there, Josh, because I don't want nobody to get this mixed up because people will mess us up.
Yeah.
George Bush, a mess up.
Right.
He messed up sometimes. I used to and George, he messed up. He did.
And
that Katrina thing was a mess up.
To me, he was a nice guy. I mean, if you think I could sit down with George Bush and have a conversation, I mean, he's a nice guy in my eyes.
I didn't say that, but I'm just trying to say he messed up.
Judah, no, you gotta
Obama.
Go.
Obama. A lot of Christians will get mad. He messed up. You know, that same-sex thing, that gay thing kind of messed him up. A lot of Christians is mad about it. But black Christians will tell you, they ain't gonna tell you in public, but they mad about it too. A lot of that stuff is messed up. Some of that stuff he did, especially he made it too hard to get some houses and stuff like that.
I came here.
But President Trump is not a person in the office that's a mess up. He's a whole nation's mess up.
Right.
We messed up by even putting somebody like that in office. Like, you understand what I'm saying? He's incapable of leading a nation, and he's just he doesn't have the capacity to understand. He cannot do the job. He's incompetent of the job. And that's where I think that we have to understand the difference of that's like us putting Judah to be president. It's not, it's just he's not prepared and developed for that moment in that time. Doesn't mean that you might like him. You love Judah. But I don't think you want to be president of the United States right now.
No, of course not. Of course not. He ain't ready to
And so I tell some of my white friends, you might like him. I don't know why you do, but you might like Trump. But that does not mean he's able to hold the office. And I think that we got to make that clear, because I don't want to do a blank statement and act. This guy does not fit any of that. George Bush, we may disagree, but we understand. I understand he knew the rules of politics. He knew the rules of governing the people. In 9/11, he became the president for everybody. Understand? You get what I'm saying? He even tried to fix some stuff he did wrong with Katrina. I got it.
Right.
Obama was trying to be president for everybody. This guy, he don't even care about everybody. He don't care about nobody but him.
Right. Oh man,
tell Kendall I love her. I think Kendall probably cussing me out. Kendall, I love you, and you know I love you.
No. I mean, again, I think we all have the right to our opinions, and I think everyone has the right to say what they say.
I still love Kendall, and I want Kendall to know I love you. You are my sister, and I don't look at you being white. You are my sister, and you might be a Trumper, but I love you still because you my sister. Yeah, my mama voted for Trump, and I.
Hey, I come from. I think it was. I forgot who said this. I heard someone talking. Okay.
I come back.
Okay, it'll come back. Okay, Judah's talking now. I think. Sorry. I think this whole notion that I have to agree with you in order for you to like me is just a fallacy. I think we're gonna have disagreements. I think we're gonna have different ways of thinking. I just believe that. So my whole notion is You vote for whoever you want to vote for. You know, in fact, you know how I feel anyway, but you vote for whoever you want to vote for. I'm not going to be mad at you. If you're going to go out there and vote for Trump, God bless you. I'm not going to defriend you. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But again, if you vote for Joe Biden, you vote for Joe Biden.
Yeah, I don't know why you feel like you have to be the troop for Trump. Like, why you have to, like, nobody asked you to go out there and be his defense attorney. You voted for Trump. Yeah. You have the right to, I don't think that we have the right to say things. And there are times I say things like Kendall corrected. Kendall said all Republicans do not white supremacy. Yeah, do not white supremacy.
Right.
And she made me clarify my point. You might be right, but Kendall, because I do not get to see those voices, and I look for those voices because I don't see the voices of those who are against, who show really against white supremacy. Mm-hmm. I therefore have to conclude by my own ignorance, because I'm not all knowing, but because of my own ignorance of not knowing and not seeing them and not hearing them, I don't. But if you have somebody to show is, and she might say, look at me, and I will say, okay.
Right.
Now, all Republicans to most Republicans. And then if she can show me there's a bunch of her who are around who are saying, no, I'm totally not against this. I'm totally not. And what I mean by white supremacy, I don't mean that they're racist. I'm saying that we got to get out of this place of being supreme. Because after we get done talking this conversation, Josh, we're going to have to deal with, and I tell people this all the time, after we get done talking about, it's easy for me to talk about racism because I sat on the side of black, I sat on the side of the prophetic voice against and holding the indictment against my white friends, right? Or white people who are adopted. But then guess what? After this court date is over, I gotta go into the next courtroom, and then I got my sisters who now gonna have a court for sexism, and now I sit on the other side, and now I'm getting considered. I'm the one. It is now the women versus the court of sexist men. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
And now I sit on the other side, and I gotta listen to women saying, "Oh, talk sexist." You say you're chauvinist, and I get all of that, right? And I'm forever trying to work on what is the balance of me being a man and what is the balance of me being oppressive in my maleness. How do I balance off of, and even when I thought I got over my sexism, I still operate in my male privilege. And how do I begin to reconcile that? What I'm saying to us is we're all trying to have an exorcism to get some spirit, some uncleanliness out of us that causes us to feel that we're above those who are beneath us. The Bible been talking about this all the time. Whether it wasn't race, the Bible talked about husbands. Don't abuse your power over your wife. So that's what he told us. Love your wife. Because just because she submit to you, if you don't love her, you're gonna abuse your power.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Love your children, because if you don't, you're gonna abuse your power. Power can be abusive. That's why the Lord did. That's why he did not want Adam and Eve's eyes open to good and evil, because he knew once they ate that fruit and they got a taste of that other type of power and them eyes will be open, they will always open them up to be susceptible to abuse. And what is happening is we're always susceptible to abuse because of our selfishness.
And I think a good thing I like to always share is we never stop learning and you never stop growing. I use a concept called cultural competence. And it's really about building, I call it cultural intelligence, I call it cultural intelligence. And there's a process that I talk about in order to develop your cultural IQ, to understand different cultures. And one of the things that I've learned in my journey is you never stop learning. You're learning things every day. I mean, look, I'm a black man and I'm still learning stuff about my history. There's still stuff that I learned. There's still stuff, and I think there's a process of learning. The question is this question, Oliver, this is the question. The question is, once you are educated, are you willing to make the changes to ensure that others feel comfortable, or others feel more, I use the word inclusive, but others feel, I guess I use the word others feel comfortable. I guess that's the word I'm gonna use. I don't know if that's the right word.
Why do they got to feel comfortable? I want you. You should feel uncomfortable if you're a fool. I think that's the problem. That's not accountability. Like accountability, and this is a part of white. This is a part of white supremacy that hurts me. Why I've been taught that. Why am I gotta make you feel comfortable and make you feel like I gotta apologize and make you feel, oh, okay, we got white people around. I don't want you to feel that hurt. Well, no, it's okay. Being uncomfortable is you're gonna be okay. Feeling uncomfortable, you need to understand, because if not, and I've done this all my life, I wanted everybody to feel comfortable, and I learned something about people. They don't change. It's in uncomfortability.
Where
The
they change.
scripture teaches us that it's in uncomfortability that begins to move us into a place of transformation.
Right.
The Lord and the Spirit led Jesus out into the wilderness.
Right,
for 40
right, right.
days and 40 nights. He was led by the Spirit into an uncomfortable place and then tempted by the devil. Come on, talk to me in here today.
Right. Yeah.
Every time you watch, Moses got to see God in a burning bush in an uncomfortable place.
Situation. Right. That's good. You're talking. Yeah.
He said, Abraham, get from your father's house among your kindred. I'm going to show you a place. I have to get you out of your comfortability into an uncomfortable place that I can make and change you. And so we have done God a disservice when we want to pacify people, and that's what's wrong with the church. We don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation about race.
Right.
Let's have the conversation.
Absolutely.
Let's do it, brothers and sisters and leaders. We need to come together, black, white, and every other color. We need to come together. We need to cry together, be mad together, but make up that when we leave out the room, we're going to come up with a solution. That's it, and that's all. Period. In our fraternity, we call it a blue room. We need to have a blue room in the church.
And have a real conversation. You're right. No, I agree. You got to have the conversation.
Daddy, let's stay here.
No, go to the room. Sorry, I'm talking to Judah right now. Yeah, go to the room, mommy.
I'm gonna stay here.
No, go to mommy.
We see.
I'm gonna be here.
Okay, you stay here. He wants to stay here. He wants to help with the production, so he's helping with the production tonight. But that's a good point, yo. That's a good point. And I want to shift real quick into COVID-19. Do you think this COVID-19 is going to work where it made people uncomfortable in order to create the change that God needs to create in order to move forward?
Yeah, I believe it has to. I believe number one, it has to. I believe COVID-19 is going to work. I believe, honestly, people don't see it. I believe, as tragic as it is, and how many people had to pass from it, which hurts my soul of watching and knowing. I think COVID-19 is going to reset us as being better people. I think we're going to ask for better stuff. I think it's awakened the society to what is going on culturally, what's going on politically. I think it's making us ask questions of what is important. So what values do we have as Americans? We ought to value healthcare.
Yeah.
We ought to value healthcare. We cannot be one of the most powerful nations in the world and the richest nations in the world, and you telling me basic healthcare coverage, not for everybody. We ought to value healthcare. We ought to value science in some senses of this. We ought to put money into making sure that we have a better system, that when outbreaks happen, we can get a vaccine quicker and more efficient.
Right. And be
prepared. Value those things.
And I think another thing I want to point out is
why in the hell is all these you see these? Why are these made in China?
Well, I want to ask this question. I want to say this.
What the Chinese, you had said now, you said it was the Kong flu. That ain't what he called it. He called it the Kong flu. He said the flu came from there, and then you're gonna tell me I gotta spend billions of dollars to get the mask from there. That doesn't make sense. So the question is what are we building for our own production to make sure our people are safe and safe? Let me tell you this. We had just got done celebrating Independence Day. And most people have forgot what was written, Josh, in the
Constitution.
No, not the Constitution. In what am I talking about? I'm looking for it right now. In when they wrote for independence, when Thomas Jefferson, I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me pull it up right now. The Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
Thomas Jefferson, when he wrote he wrote something that I think to me is, bro, so important, right? So we all know in the art in the Declaration of Independence, he wrote that we hold these truths self-evident, that all men are created equal and that are endowed from their creator certain inalienable rights that among life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But we don't remember this other part that he wrote, right? He writes after that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the rights of the people to either alter or abolish it, to institute a government laying its foundations for such principles. He says, because all of that, and he goes on, let me paraphrase, most likely it's about the safety and their happiness. So now the same Declaration of Independence we talk about, we got all men are created equal, is the same way he said, and when the government becomes a hindrance and destructive, it is the rights of the people. Either we're going to alter it or we're going to abolish it.
Right. That's good.
There are things fundamentally wrong with our government right now, and we have to, it is our right and our duty to either alter or abolish those things.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
That's what I'm saying. I believe what COVID has brought out is some real deep issues. Racism and police reform, we need to alter or we abolish it. We have to abolish it. So when they say either we gonna reform police or we gonna defund them, because right now the way policing is happening is against the safety and the happiness of citizens of a people. And I don't care if it's something happening, and you may say, well, it's not against all people, but if it's against one citizen, it's against all of us.
Right.
It can't be citizens. We are Americans, and there are Americans who are being targeted. And anytime Americans are being targeted, we ought to have a problem with anybody who targets specific Americans in that way. So I believe COVID is going to be a blessing in disguise.
And I think
COVID, God is going to get some glory out of this horrific situation.
And I think it's revealed leadership. I think we've definitely seen effective leadership, and we saw ineffective leadership. And I think that's been very clear with what's going on. And again, as you know, I say, Frank, I think both sides have been bad leadership. Well, I'm not going to say all people, but to a certain degree, I think both sides have not been as effective as they could when it relates to leadership. And that's how I feel about that.
Well, I don't even know if it's just a side thing. I just need to wonder what is going on.
Let me tell you.
There's a leadership again. There's a leadership problem in America. It's not both sides. It's on all facets in society. We have failed as leaders. We're failing as leaders, as fathers. Men are. Failing, I mean, look at our divorce rate. We're failing as leaders in companies. Look at how many protests, walkout, strikes we have. We're failing our children in education. We're failing our children in creating jobs. We have failed a whole generation. Right. Look, millennials had to deal with the Great Recession.
Yeah.
Now the millennials have to deal with the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
And failed the biggest generation of Americans. This millennials, the biggest generation we have, and we failed them. And look at all the people who are making decisions are not caring nothing about them.
Nothing.
You got people who are almost 3-4 generations away from them, have not made anything, to the point where an old man from Boston became the leaders of the millennials. Bernie Sanders is from Boston.
He's from New Hampshire. Yeah,
Bernie Sanders, Grandpa Bernie, and Auntie Maxine is the leaders of the millennial group, because we ain't got nobody else that has stepped up to the plate. You know that's crazy. When
I don't want to say, and I don't know if we want to say there's nobody else. Have we not allowed someone else to step up to the plate? I don't even know if say there's no one else. I mean, have we not allowed someone to step up to the plate? Because if you don't, because honest, if we're gonna deal with Democrats today, Frank. I'm sorry, Frank. I'm gonna be very honest with you.
Waiting for you. Come on.
Yeah, I'm gonna be very honest with you.
Ready to talk about? Come on, talk about my governor. Come on, talk.
No, I'm not going to him. I'm talking about Bernie, and I'm talking about Joe Biden. Again, I'm not sold on Joe Biden, and I've told y'all this. You know how I feel, and I'm definitely not voting for Trump. So I don't know what I'm about to do. But let me just say this: there's got to be a better candidate out there than Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders.
Why are you having this? Why are you having this conversation? It's too late. It's too late. We have a two-party system. You either vote for one or you vote for the other. I'm tired of people in this. I don't know who I'm gonna vote for. You're going to vote for either one. It's either you're going or you're not going. You can't do that. Either you buy. Either you're going to buy the fruit or you're not going to buy the fruit. It can't be. You can't be in the place of indecision. The Bible says multitudes are in the valley of decision. The day of the Lord is near the valley of decision. What God is not going to allow you to do is be lukewarm. You're going to have to pick. Now, are they the best candidates? No. But can I tell you this? Prior to, obviously, y'all, prior to Obama, they never had the best of all candidates. And obviously, as Democrats, you're Bill Clinton struck. Obviously, you're Obama struck. We haven't never had the best of all candidates. We had Bill Clinton, and then after Bill Clinton, we had some rough patches. Then we had Al Gore, who's a nice guy, but he wasn't the best of. I mean, he didn't get the best of all of us. Republicans on the same thing. They had Ronald Reagan. That was their phenomenal. They felt their phenomenal leader, and then after Ronald Reagan, they had George H.W. Bush. Now, Daddy Bush wasn't that great of a leader. He wasn't.
Yeah.
And then they had George Bush, who we know was he wasn't even leading. Dick Cheney and them was leading. Come on, let's talk about it, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like we had always the best. And then here comes this great smooth walking. He has swag. He understands everybody. Obama, and we're stuck on this Obama, especially us as leaders. He was our charismatic lead. He had it. You know what I mean?
But Bill Clinton was the bad deal, though, Frank. That's
what I said. And Bill could go sit with everybody and move. They were charismatic leaders.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of our presidents have been boring and stale. The majority of senators and Congress people are stale. Right. You know what I mean? And we have now some people who are a little lively. That's why politics hasn't been always mainstream for people. Mm-hmm. We haven't had. Now you're starting to see that AOCs, and you start to see people bring a little swag to it because of a generation, and really from a hip hop generation on into you seeing them bringing in swag. But come on, bro, like I love Cory Booker. I love Cory Booker, but he don't got swag. Right. Yeah. I mean,
Obama was special. Obama was special, Oliver. Obama was special. He was special.
Obama was special. I will say Bill Clinton was special. I would say, and if you watch, both of them were called at the time. Bill Clinton was called at a time of racial unrest. Let's talk about it.
Right.
And Bill Clinton had to navigate 1 million black men at the Washington Monument, the Million Man March, and Bill Clinton had to navigate at that moment, because that could have been a moment. That could have been a moment of wherever we would have had a revolution. Mm-hmm. Any man, any group, and let's talk about it. Minister Louis Farrakhan and those who led had the power at that moment. They got 1 million black men to come to Washington, D.C. They could have influenced 1 million black men to revolt and to have a war. Yeah, but they didn't. And Bill Clinton was great at navigating those terrains of bringing, not fueling, not doing what this food, this president does. This president is saying, try me. Bill Clinton didn't go put no bullets on him. Bill Clinton really stood up and apologized. And it was that reason that he apologized. They went and got him for getting some head underneath the Oval Office.
You gonna be that?
They impeached him, not because they impeached him for getting some head because he apologized to black people. That's what they was mad at. He apologized to black people, and that's what they got him. So you had Bill Clinton, who had to navigate and deal with racial reconciliation. You had Obama, who had to come. And if you remember, there was so much police killing, there was so much shooting happening, and he had to reconcile race relations. And again, we're at that moment of race relations. But we have a guy here who cannot navigate the terrain. He can't
because his foundation was divisive from the jump. So like it was kind of funny to me when people would talk about, well, the president needs to do a speech on race relations, and I'm like, dude, have they been watching the president? The president has no credibility, has no stance to talk about race. He can't talk about it. It's fallacy because the very thing he used to get into office. So there's no way that he could even speak about it. It's just what it is. There's nothing he can do to speak about
race. He can't speak about violence against women. Because he said grab him by the vagina, he said grab him by the pussy and throw your tongue down him. So he can't talk about any of those things. I really believe we have to kind of get over. He's a distraction. You know what I mean? And I believe we have to get over the distraction. And I'm just at this point, I'm just tired of people talking about what Biden is not. Biden is a return to us trying to be a return to democracy. Because what we have right now is not democracy.
Right.
And if you believe in democracy and a true union and you want to return back, that's all Biden is. Biden was a great number 2. I don't think he's tried to run before. He wasn't a great number 1, but he is called for such a time. Number 2, Biden is the only one who is willing to preserve. Now, I'm going to tell you this, willing to preserve the heritage and the legacy of the first African-American president. And that to me is number 1 important. Number 3, Biden is willing to deal with the central problem that is one of the central problems, fundamental problems that's happening in American society. That's healthcare. Bro, you cannot tell me healthcare. If we're going to deal with mental disease, we got to deal with healthcare. If we're going to deal with homelessness in the streets, we got to deal with healthcare. If we're going to deal with our elders, we got to deal with healthcare. If we're going to deal with COVID, we got to deal with healthcare. We have to get to the fundamental problem of healthcare, and he's willing to deal with it. And I'm kind of confused on why we're talking about anything else. He's going to do his job. He's called for what he's called to. I don't think we've really even given him a chance. And then, And then the second thing about it is what do you need to be sold on? I think right now there needs to be overhaul. If you care about democracy, there has to be if you care about democracy, there has to be a choice. And in choice, you got to have a Republican Party. I think the Republican Party has to lose big in order to clean house.
They're gonna have to clean house.
And I'm gonna tell you, they gotta lose big. I need the Republican Party to lose big to clean house, because I'm going to tell you in the next 10 years, the Democratic Party is going to have to lose big to clean house, because we're getting so on this liberal, we're going so far because the Republican Party stretched so far right, we're stretching so far left that we're talking fundamental foolishness. So that's why you have a Governor Newsom who can get up here and tell the church they can't sing in their church. Dummy.
You want to get me started now?
I hope it was on Facebook, because everybody was singing in their church. I should get up and sing. I should have sung. I ain't even had no choir. I should have put people in the sing. You can't tell nobody they can't sing in their church, dummy. You's a fool.
That was probably the worst thing. I mean, that was like the thing really bad about that move that he did is that it could affect Joe Biden. That kind of stuff could affect. I'm telling you, Frank, that kind of stuff.
No, Joe Biden is a Christian is what people kill me. Joe Biden is a Christian. You look at him and say, you're a dumb fool. Joe Biden is sitting up there looking like you're a dumb. Number one, it's not going to affect. California is going, period. You point to California. Y'all already say they crazy already. Governor Newsom is already crazy. It's just dumb rhetoric. And what it does is it distracts us from dealing with Trump, and it does that. But you got to remember, him and Trump got the same spirit. They're opportunists.
Yep.
Because at the same time he shut down all the wineries, he didn't shut down the one he making $600,000 on.
Right.
See what you did was you were a fool. If you thought that, did you think that the people wasn't going to figure out, brother, recall is on its way to you. One thing about this state, we recall fools.
Well, not only that,
So
Frank, I think there's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people connected to him that could be affected as well. Now that's a whole other message for another day. But I think that could be a problem.
Nancy Pelosi gonna leave on her. She is the one. She is the only lone. She is the woman who battled Trump and made him respect. So Nancy Pelosi ain't gonna wear. If she was smart, she would call him and tell him to shut the hell up. If she was smart. I mean, I think she's a smart lady. She should call him and say that was the stupidest thing you could say.
Yeah.
Period. But he's an opportunist. If you look at him, that's what he wants to do. He wants to be. What he did was he got big. He was on TV. Remember, Trump would get on TV. And
I'm sorry, Frank, my son keeps talking and talking. He said it's his turn. He ready to talk. I'm sorry, my son keep talking. That's all. I don't want people to get mixed up. I'm sorry.
I'm not worried about it. We're not worried about it. We a show who got kids. It's part of life. Governor then the Governor Cuomo would come, and Trump would be so off. When we listen to Governor Cuomo, then people felt at ease. Woo! So everybody wanted to listen to Governor Cuomo, and then Newsom had to be the West Coast conversation, so he would get up and talk. But nobody really wanted to listen to him. They was mostly listening to Mayor Eric Garcetti because Newsom is a little off too. He a little wild here. He wild. Nobody want to deal with that wildness. But what happened was he started to get on TV all the time. He ain't, and guess what? That struck him. Started. Mm-hmm. Now what's happening is everything is moving and nobody want to listen to them no more. The president ain't on TV no more, so you don't have a yin and a yang. So nobody really listening to those things anymore. But Gavin Newsom still got that urge. He got that tick to be in the spotlight. So he gonna say stupid, wild things like Trump does because they want attention. He's an attention whore, bro. Period, no buts about it. He's an attention whore. But let me say this to you. After he said it, I was on my face in meditation. I'm gonna tell you what the Lord said to me as a prophet.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna write it and I'm gonna send it to him. The Lord said, if he does not stop his attack against his church, the angel of destruction will raise its sword towards Sacramento. And it will specifically attack the Capitol, him. Won't attack the people, but it will attack him, his administration, and he will make history. He will make history.
Wow.
He won't make it out of this office.
Wow.
If he does not stop his attack against his church. God says in this season, those that will raise against his church will war against God. Period.
And I ain't trying to be on that side. You don't want to be on that side. That's not the side anyone want to be on. Wow.
Period.
Yeah.
If you would take advantage of this moment to raise against God's church in the middle of a moment of pestilence, in a moment of reset, if you would take advantage of this moment to raise against God's church, you will feel the anger and the wrath of God. I would tell people, be careful about how you deal with God's people.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, Frank. You're right. I mean, honestly, man, I pray for California. I love my California. I mean, I don't.
You got to worry about. You better pray that the governor. Somebody give the governor this message.
No, Florida.
God, that God is saying, now God has been tolerant of a lot of things that's happening. God has shown mercy in a lot of things. What God does not do, repeatedly follow and play. He does not play with his church. His church is his experiment of glory. His church is it. He's not going to play. You will not, you have not the command. You do not have the authority to command what the Holy Spirit does in the service.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
one thing to say, y'all can't meet, y'all
Mhm.
can't physically meet, y'all still have church. That's different. That's a different conversation to have. Josh, that's saying, you know what, we don't want y'all spreading it. But when you decide that you powerful enough to determine the order of God's service,
Well, not only
and
that,
what can happen in God's service, you've just stepped over the line.
well, Frank, not only that, you're saying people can't worship. Why Satan get kicked out of heaven, Frank? We go to nothing left. You
That's
can't
how you
worship.
know That's how
You taking away God's glory, Frank.
you gonna determine that there could be no sound. The Bible even says that if y'all don't praise me, the rocks will cry out. So you just determine that you're gonna shut up the aroma. Do you know what can happen, brother? Let me tell you something. If the church, and if they dumb, and this is what's the problem with the church with me. If y'all will follow and do what he gonna do, God, there will be earthquakes. And this fool said y'all can't have church, and a flood happened at Newport Beach. You don't play with God, bro.
Hey, Frank.
When have we had tsunamis?
Frank, this is a true story. I forgot who I was talking to. I don't know who I was talking to. And I was like, man, when you start coming against God and his worship, man, you asking for it. And I'm not lying, within 24 hours, there's a flood in Newport Beach. I ain't never, in my 41 years in California, I ain't never seen a flood come in Newport Beach. I ain't never seen it in my life. I said, what the heck is going on? I said, man.
I've never seen, if he's not careful, COVID will hit his house.
Yeah.
If he does not leave. And you know me, I'm not the type I don't put nothing on nobody. I would not even want to see that on nobody. But you do not, you gonna learn to respect and honor the house of God. And the house of God is not up for anyone else's authority, only of God. God doesn't share his glory with no one.
That's the thing.
Not governor, not a king, not with anyone. No one has the right to determine what happens in God's house who has not been authorized and ordained in God's church.
And
he has not been ordained.
And I want to say this just because I know, people be misconstruing things. There's no evil, wishful thinking at all. It's just a warning that you don't play with God's house. And I think people need to understand that.
I'm a Democrat. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm a family. Everybody know me. I'm a Democrat. I even voted for the dude, even though I wanted Viragosa to win. But I voted for the dude. I'm gonna tell the dude I am a prophet and I am Nathan to David. I'm telling him. I'm telling him today that, and I hope all of these darn these hoish preachers are telling the truth and stop being around him and not telling the truth. You are stepping on that. God's house is holy ground, and you don't have the right and the authority if you have not been sanctioned and given that right by God to determine what's going to happen in God's house. What you should have did was call preachers and say, can you do this? I don't know who you think you are that you got enough power and authority to determine what we're going to do. But I guarantee you that you learn today on the 5th day of July, people still going to sing. And matter of fact, I think now that you dared me, I might now bring my praise and worship team back. I dare you to come shut me down.
Now you're like, I'm going back to church, Bishop. Now you want to go out to the sanctuary.
You and spark something. I dare you. You are woken up. You when you do stuff like that, you wake up. You cause enemies that you never had.
Yeah, no reason.
And this just caused enemies that he didn't even need to have.
And I think that's the critical thing, man. You said something. I was talking to my wife about this. Frank, I have mixed feelings on a variety of different things, but there's just certain battles I don't even entertain no more. Like I'm on this whole notion, and I've been seeing it more like gossip. People be throwing, you're about. I don't care about no gossip. I ain't got time for no gossip. Like I think when you're focused on what you're doing, you don't got time for the gossip, the naysaying, and I ain't got time for that kind of stuff. Don't even bring that to me. It's a wasted time. It's a wasted argument, and yeah, I feel you on. They got too much other stuff to worry about. That's true.
Too much. So I don't even know. I would hope he's gonna come back on Monday. I would pray. I will pray that he repent this weekend and then he come back on Monday. If anybody's around, he will come back. You remember that? You remember when you remember Eric Garcetti had to come back and say, wait, no, that ain't what I meant. You got to come back sometimes and fix what you said. We all have to go.
And I'll say this, Frank, and I do want to say this, and you know, I do want to say this. Being a governor is a tough job. So I'm not, you know what I'm saying, you're going to say some stuff, you're going to say some stupid stuff. So, you know, I would welcome him back. I'd welcome him to come back and say and apologize. I understand, because I'm that's one thing I do understand is being on that kind of level, and that, you know, politics that's a cold piece. And so
not only that, come on, Josh. I mean, I'm sometimes doing a show for 4 hours, and people be like, "Oh, what you said." You speak for 4 hours. Sometimes off the top of the cuss, you talking off the top of the head, you talking straight. You may say some things that may get misconstrued. You may say some stupid things.
Yeah,
we all say dumb things. That happens.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, therefore, it takes a real bold person to come back and apologize.
Right. That's it. Yeah.
And that is
that's good talk right there. That's good.
That's godly. Godliness is not godliness for the human being is not being perfect. Godliness is coming back and rectifying and making whole that which was broken. I think that when you follow the plan that God has for repentance, God has for forgiveness, then you show that you care for him. You know what I mean? He already knows that you're going to make mistakes. You're fallible, but you got to be able to make that thing right. And that's what God wants you to do. He called us to righteousness, to make things, to bring things back in right order. Right.
Yep.
And that's what we should be doing. And so I hope that Governor Newsom brings things back in right order. And I hope that he learns from this moment. Now, would I vote for him for president? Never. But I hope that he learns from this moment, because one thing I do not play is with my religious freedom. I don't play with nobody's religious freedom. I believe everybody. The Muslim has a right to serve. I believe you can serve whatever God you want. That's what Joshua said. Choose ye this day whom you gonna serve.
Right.
But one thing you're not going to take away me serving.
Yeah. I think you got a little more passion now.
Not going to take away my choice. So those are some of the things that are happening. I think, Josh, I think this ought to be a time. I'm excited. I think I'm starting to see. Excited. I see more voices doing what we're doing. I see more people doing what we're doing. Yep. I think that there's enough room for everybody. I mean, absolutely. But social, Facebook and social media is like 1 billion people. So all of us have voices to meet with people, voices to do. Whatever you do it with excellence. Whatever you do it with all that God is giving you. Come on, be authentic, do it with a spirit of excellence. I believe God is going to bless it. I don't believe that there has to be this little bitty people fighting for all resources. I believe, they say, do you believe in the redistribution of wealth? Yeah, probably so. Because I believe that not 10% of the people can't control 90% of the resources.
No, I believe I don't think they're smart. I think no one's smart enough to do that. I think you need multiple facets. Everyone needs each other. And I do want to say this. I'll share with you, Frank. So one of the things, and I literally came to this idea today. And well, actually, the past few days, I literally been blown away. And I'm going to share this tonight. So, I've been doing Leaders for Christ, every, for a month, I would do worship experiences. And I'm still, and I started realize I was going back to my videos, and I had all this footage and all this worship, and I realized, okay, go talk to your mommy. And I realized parenting and doing a TV show at the same time. There you go. I never see it. But then what I realized I learned this week how I can incorporate worship, the word, and I can do basically a whole ministry online. It's wide open. And so what I realized is that literally I feel the Leaders of Christ, we're being launched to another level because of COVID. And I realized some of the money that I was put into certain areas, right, when I was doing live, can now be shifted into other places to reach more people online. So there's a whole different system being set up. And I'm sitting there last night, Frank, and I'm sitting and I'm like, God, you done stripped this whole ministry. Don't no one come to help. Don't no one be calling. I mean, I get some calls, but ain't no one serving, Frank. It's just me by myself every Wednesday night, setting it all up by myself. My wife helps to set up a little bit, but your boy up here by myself, Bishop, speaking. I got the worship team. But man, God had to do all that for something new. And I share that not to talk about that, but I share that to say, I believe that's happening in many people's lives where what we once had is being shifted into something new that's going to lead to more impact, that's going to lead to more reaching more people and also doing more things. And that was the whole purpose of that.
Maybe I'll be insensitive. I never had a consistent. I never had a team like that.
Mhm.
Always been. I always had to, what I'm saying, do it myself. Like when people look at my system, I tell people, um, what I do, I don't have, nobody else sets my system up.
Mhm.
What you see every Sunday is me. Nobody else helping to do that system.
Yeah.
And so I think there's no excuses for preachers at this moment now to do. I can show you how to do your system. Whereas we got a brother by the name of Terry Brooks who has a team, and he can show you how to do that system with a whole team.
Mhm.
Got Bishop Withers who can show you how to do that with a smaller team.
Mhm.
Whatever you do, you can do it with excellence.
Right.
Whether you
Yeah.
by yourself or you have a team, just
Mhm.
do it with excellence. And
Yeah.
one thing I've watched you do is navigate the terrain of doing it with excellence.
That's
That's
it.
that's what it is. You know what I mean? It's not to talk about who didn't show up and who will and who will not. We all gonna make that plain. Just as long as you learn, thank God that you can learn how to do
Mhm.
more with less now. And
Right.
again, like I said, as speakers, as places, matter of fact, like you was talking the other day, I started thinking about it. We can do so much, we can be a blessing so much,
Mhm.
and we can do it right out of the comforts of our home or of our office. We can
Right.
be a blessing to the nation, and we
Yeah.
don't have to. I mean, honestly, what this has done is stop all of that. We needed to pay people to get pay to play. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Even in the
Mhm.
church, you have to pay. You have to get big preachers to come preach to get you on platform. You have to wait till somebody give you a platform. And I've been preaching for over 30 years. And because I didn't want to play the game of kissing ass to get on a platform,
Right.
then I didn't get on a platform. Well, guess what? That day is over now. You know what I mean? And so,
Yep.
yeah, I don't. Nobody got to go through that with you. Nobody got to
Yeah.
do it. If you stay diligent in doing what God has called you to do, God will elevate you in due season. And that's what
And
the scripture says.
the Lord builds the house. And the Lord builds man, Frank. It's
He
I mean,
builds it.
I honestly they talk about COVID-19 and people talk about that history's made, and we're gonna talk about this years down the line on what happened. When I tell you, when I tell it's been so crazy what God has been doing as I obey him and even what we're doing right now, right? Even what we're doing right. It's just been so amazing on how God has shifted and is just leading certain things and certain lessons. I mean, it blows my mind. I mean, Oliver, I'm like, it blows my mind. It blows my honestly, it even got me to a point where you know how when you follow God, you're following God, but you're still like, is this sure this is you, God? Are you sure this is you? And as I look back, I'm like, man, God, you've been talking to me, and I can see your fingerprints all the way to where I'm at right now. Because it's always a challenge. Is this what God is saying? Is this what God, you know what I'm saying? And to see the fingerprints, it really elevates your faith.
And I believe
I'm
it.
still
I believe
done.
it. I stand on it. I
Yeah.
think
Not
this is
done
going to
yet.
be.
No.
But we stay here
Judah,
now.
we're gonna release your daddy.
We go,
Judah wanted.
okay. We're still talking. You want to get a hug? Okay, there you go,
Of
Judah.
course.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey, Judah, Jew.
You can go with your mommy. Yeah. But you know what, Frank? It's good to have the kids around. I was thinking about, I'm glad he's here because he'll be around the anointing. So when he get older, he'll be doing what I'm doing. I'll be, you know what I'm saying? So he's just watching.
Model. My daughter says to me, "You going to the front house to preach? You going to the
Uh-huh.
front house to you going to the front house to do your
Yeah.
show, Daddy?" And
Yep.
so I say do. And I just think that we'll be a better. I was reading an article that they said some companies uh uh what was I looking? Was it a city? I gotta find this article, Josh. It talked about how now some employers are totally being insensitive to people and their kids. Because just think, the
Mhm.
fall come in, if kids are gonna be halfway at home, halfway, you have to make room for that.
Yep.
And if companies don't, then you showing, here we go, insensitivity toward family,
Well,
right?
Florida
And now
State.
family will be attacked.
Well, Florida State University out here, Florida. We got our issue in Florida too, by the way. But Florida State out here, Oliver, they issued a statement where they said, I forgot what it said exactly, the date frame, but they said basically they were going to start cutting where you could be taking care of your kids and working at the same time. Literally, there was an article out there. Obviously, they came back to retract it, but that was a higher ed institution that said that.
What did they say?
Florida State said that literally it's a letter, and I'm paraphrasing because but what it said was that by this date, you're not going to be allowed to take care of your kids and work at home at the same time. We are.
Why you working at the same time? Okay. I was hearing other people who said that. So while you're on the clock, while you're on the clock, you can't take care of you can't tend to your kid. That's what I'm saying. I mean, we've got to a point where that's an attack against the family.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody knows that, like we are in this moment. And guess what? It ain't like Florida State University, right? It ain't like they're a for-profit business in the sense that you got to be keen to what's happening on their production line, right? They get money from federal, state. They get money from our taxes. Everybody know education. The whole system is slow. It's made slow on purpose. So come on, man. Like, you don't have to be on people's head like that. It's not needed to do that job. You're not needed to be on people's
head. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got to get out of here. Judah, he on me, Bishop. We've been on for an hour 45.
He's ready. He's ready. He's ready to do his thing. He want to be with Papa. And,
but this is good. This is good tonight, Bishop.
What?
This is real good.
Blessings to you.
All right.
I love you. All right, we'll talk next week.
Oh, he wants to go on. Okay, come on.
Now?
Yeah, come on. He wants to talk. Okay, what do you want to say? Let's let him talk.
I can't hear him. You cut him off. You got to switch your mic.
All right, you on? What do you want to say? Can you hear me now?
Let's talk, Judah.
So, Judah, what do you want to say?
Hi.
Hi.
So, Judah, what do you want to tell the people? They watching you. What do you want to tell the people? Who you voted for?
I'm getting. Hey, let me get your phone first. Here you go.
Okay, thank you for the phone. Okay. What do you want to say to Uncle Frank?
Who you voted for?
I'm gonna say I got my blue phone.
You got your blue phone?
Yes.
And tell the people how old are you?
I'm 4.
And tell people who is it, super Judah or super Dave? Who's the super guy?
Super Eddie.
Super Eddie. What's something about Super Eddie? Who's Super Eddie?
Me.
Oh, you're Super Eddie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alternate personality. I'm not mad at you. So Judah, what do you have planned for tomorrow? What are you doing tomorrow, Judah?
Nothing.
Not doing nothing.
Nothing?
No. I got
Are you going to school?
school.
You're going to school. Tell me go to school tomorrow.
I'm going to school tomorrow.
To listen to Miss Monica.
Listen to Miss Monica.
Now, what do you do with Miss Monica? What type of work you do over there?
I do count and do lessons and do everything.
So
everything.
I like to collect things.
Okay, let's say 1.
1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
What's next?
4.
What's next?
4.
What's after 4? You don't know. You don't know what's after 4? 4,
Yes.
then what?
In 4.
5.
5.
Okay. Can you say it in Spanish?
7.
Can you count in Spanish?
9.
Uno, dos,
uno, tres, cuatro,
cinco,
cinco,
Yes.
seis.
I like you a lot.
You what?
I like you a lot.
You like me a lot? I like you a lot too, Judah.
I love it. I love it. Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Yay.
Oh, we know. Frank, you know how to speak Spanish, don't you? This kid knows.
I know that. I know. Mama praising him. I
He
love
know,
it.
he know better Spanish than me. Say holy is the Lamb.
Holy is the
Judah,
Lamb.
what worship song did you sing today? Okay, you gonna say stuff I don't know, Judah. We gotta stay with the basics. Yeah, we gotta stay with the basics, Judah. Stay with the basics. Welcome, Frank.
So are you gonna pray for the people?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll pray us out. Let's pray. Go ahead, Judah.
Amen.
I'm with you. Praise the
We're
Lord.
ready.
Yes.
Who's with you everywhere you go? Who's with you everywhere you go, Judah?
God.
God is with you?
Yeah.
What does God say to you?
He said, I'm super ready.
Judah, watch it, Frank. Judah, what kind of car do you want?
What kind of car I want an orange car with the Lexus on it.
Come on. See, that's why you my nephew, Judah. Come on. Come on. You want the best, boy. Come on. Tell your daddy you want a Maserati.
And what is his name?
Uncle
You
Frank.
want a Bentley.
Uncle Fake. What you want?
Yeah.
What you want for a car?
I want a Bentley. You want a Bentley? I want us to have a Bentley together. What color you
No,
want?
I want a Lexus.
Okay, well I'm with you. I want a Lexus too. We can get one. I'm gonna get a black one. You want a white one? I want a black one. You want a blue one? What color you want?
A white one.
Okay, and we're gonna have the same car. We're gonna go drive together.
And
Yeah, boom. Yeah, that's it.
come and white Lexus.
Yeah, I'll come with you in the white light. I'm gonna roll with you in the white light. I'm gonna sit there and let you drive. You drive the car. I'm gonna sit with you and watch you as you drive.
A toy?
The toy.
You want the toy, white Lexus toy?
Yeah.
We're gonna get you a white Lexus toy.
Yes. Together. But wait,
Today?
are you
I
on
don't know if I get it today, but we'll get it.
Alright. Alright. Okay, you're wet.
All right.
Are you all
What do
good?
you want for a car?
I'm okay. You ready to go, G? Ready to go talk to mommy?
Yeah.
Good job, G. You did a good job. Awesome.
I'm
Wonderful.
done, Daddy.
Yeah. There you go.
Hang up.
Man, I love it, man. I love it. I love it.
Wait till he starts talking more. He knows he's gonna be talking.
He got it.
Yeah.
He got it, man. Hey, man, we can thank God that we have a time to pass it to. We have somewhere
Yes,
to
we
pass
do.
it.
Yep. You're right.
World is gonna be in good hands. All we need, he said, all he needs is one to stand in the gap. So
That's all he needs. Yeah.
you got one, brother. You got one.
Amen.
In the gap, you can find one. He'll show grace on the land. So
Yeah.
thank
Amen.
you, Lord.
All right, Bishop.
All right, Doc, man.
All
I
right.
take it.
All right. Bless. Bye.
Peace.